They say experience comes with age, but when it comes to sex, many older adults feel like they've lost the right to speak up. Why? Because somewhere along the way, society decided that sexuality has an expiration date. For decades, the media has pushed an image of intimacy that belongs only to the young. Magazine covers, movies and commercials flood us with images of youth, beauty and sexual energy. But when was the last time you saw a romantic scene featuring a couple over 70? This silence isn't accidental, it's cultural. According to a recent report by the AARP, more than 2/3 of adults over 60 believe that talking openly about sex at their age feels uncomfortable or even shameful. Many grew up in households where the topic was never discussed, where sex was taboo, private, even sinful. That silence follows them into older age, making it difficult to speak up about needs, desires, and concerns. Religious teachings, social expectations, and outdated gender roles also play a role. In many communities, older women are expected to be past that stage in life, while men feel pressure to stay silent if they experience changes in performance or desire, often fearing it's a sign of weakness. Even within long-term relationships, these taboos have consequences. A study published by the Mayo Clinic found that over 50% of couples over 60 report a sharp decline in communication about intimacy. Not because the desire disappears, but because fear, shame, or assumptions get in the way. Let's be clear. Getting older doesn't mean becoming asexual. It means adapting. It means being brave enough to challenge long-held beliefs and say, I still want connection. I still want to feel desired. I still want to be touched, not out of obligation, but out of joy. The stigma also exists in the healthcare system. Doctors rarely bring up sexual health during checkups with older patients. As a result, conditions like erectile dysfunction or vaginal dryness go untreated, not because they're unsolvable, but because no one's talking about them. This silence hurts more than just relationships. It affects mental health. Studies show that seniors who feel unwanted or disconnected are more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline. Touch, affection, and intimacy aren't luxuries. They are human needs. If you've ever felt like no one talks about this, you're not imagining it. But that ends here. Because the truth is, your sexuality doesn't disappear. It evolves. And the more we understand that, the more empowered we become to enjoy every chapter of our lives. Now that we've exposed the silence around senior sexuality, let's take a deeper look at what really happens to the body as we age, and why most of what you've heard is only half the truth. Let's set the record straight. Aging doesn't turn the body off, it simply changes the settings. For both men and women, sexual function evolves with time. But evolving is not the same as disappearing. Understanding these changes is the first step to embracing your sexuality with confidence and clarity. So what exactly happens? Let's start with hormones. In women, estrogen levels begin to decline during menopause, usually between ages 45 and 55. This drop can cause vaginal dryness, thinning of the vaginal walls, and changes in natural lubrication, all of which can make intimacy uncomfortable if not addressed. But here's the good news. These symptoms are manageable. With the right support, intimacy can not only continue, it can improve. Treatments like vaginal moisturizers, estrogen creams, and even simple lifestyle changes can restore comfort and confidence. In men, testosterone levels decline gradually, about 1% per year after age 30. That means by the time a man reaches 70, his testosterone might be 40% lower than it was in his 20s. This can contribute to reduced libido, slower erections, or a longer time to orgasm. But again, this doesn't mean the end of a satisfying sex life. In fact, many men report more emotional connection and less pressure for performance as they age, making intimacy more meaningful than ever. Here's another myth to bust. Aging causes erectile dysfunction, ED, in every man. Not true. According to the Cleveland Clinic, nearly 50% of men over 75 still maintain sexual activity, and many never experience chronic ED. And when ED does occur, it's often linked to treatable conditions like heart disease, diabetes, or certain medications. Now, let's talk about the brain, because that's where desire starts. Despite physical changes, the brain's response to arousal remains highly active well into your 80s and beyond. Studies from Harvard Medical School show that the brain's pleasure centers don't decline with age. In fact, older adults often experience deeper satisfaction due to emotional maturity and self-awareness. For women, the changes go beyond estrogen. Many also experience a shift in how their body responds to touch and stimulation. Some may need more time or a different kind of intimacy, but many report that sex becomes better after 60 thanks to less pressure, more honesty, and fewer distractions from everyday life. Let's not forget, aging also brings freedom. No more fear of pregnancy, more time for connection, less performance anxiety, and for some, a new partner or a renewed spark in a long-term relationship. But these changes, both biological and emotional, require adaptation. Just like your diet, your sleep, and your exercise routine need adjustments with age, so does your sex life. That doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means learning how your body works now and honoring it. Your body is not broken. It's not past its prime. It's simply speaking a new language, and it's time we all learn to listen. So now that we've uncovered what actually happens to your body as you age, let's take on some of the most dangerous myths still shaping how people think and feel about sex in later life. It's not age that holds people back from intimacy, it's misinformation. So in this chapter, we're taking aim at 5 of the most harmful myths that stop older adults from embracing their sexuality. Myth number 1. Older adults don't want or need sex. This is one of the most widespread and toxic lies. The idea that desire simply vanishes with age is not only false, it's dangerous. According to a study by the National Poll on Healthy Aging, over 60% of adults aged 65-80 say sex is still an important part of their lives. Desire doesn't disappear, it adapts, and for many it deepens. Myth number 2. Sex is dangerous after a certain age. There's this bizarre idea that intimacy becomes a health risk after retirement. The truth, unless your doctor has given you specific restrictions due to a heart condition or severe illness, sex is just as safe and beneficial as any moderate form of exercise. In fact, according to Johns Hopkins Medicine, regular sexual activity can help improve blood pressure, reduce stress, and even support immune function. Myth number 3. Erectile dysfunction means the end of sex. Wrong. ED is not a stop sign. It's an invitation to explore other forms of intimacy. Medical interventions, lifestyle changes, and emotional connection can all play a role in overcoming ED. More importantly, intimacy doesn't have to revolve around penetration. Many couples find that physical touch, massage, and mutual pleasure become even more satisfying with time and trust. Myth number 4. Women lose all sexual desire after menopause. This is both scientifically and emotionally untrue. While hormonal changes can affect libido, they do not eliminate it. A study published in the journal Menopause found that many women report an increase in sexual satisfaction in their 60s and 70s, citing better communication, fewer distractions, and a deeper emotional bond with their partner. Myth number 5. There's nothing new to discover after 60. This one's a silent killer of curiosity and connection. Many older adults assume they've already experienced the best sex of their lives and that nothing new is possible. But that mindset ignores a beautiful truth. Aging often brings more honesty, more creativity, and more courage to ask for what you really want. Whether it's trying new forms of intimacy, exploring toys or techniques, or simply slowing down to savor connection, there is always more to discover. These myths aren't just wrong, they're damaging. They create shame, limit joy, and isolate people during a time when connection is more important than ever. The good news? Every time we speak openly, every time we challenge a false belief, every time we choose to prioritize pleasure, health, and truth, we take back control. So now that we've cut through the noise, it's time to talk about what really matters. Intimacy that goes beyond sex. Because touch, affection, and emotional connection are just as vital, and in some cases, even more powerful. What happens when physical intimacy changes, but the need for connection remains just as strong? Too often, we confuse sex with intimacy, treating them like they're one and the same. But real intimacy is deeper. It's the way someone looks at you when you walk into a room. It's the warmth of a hand on your shoulder. It's falling asleep next to someone who makes you feel safe, seen, and valued. As we age, these forms of connection become even more important, not less. According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, physical affection like cuddling, kissing, and hand-holding can reduce cortisol levels, lower blood pressure, and boost oxytocin, the bonding hormone. In other words, simple touch isn't just comforting, it's medicine. But for many older adults, loneliness is a growing epidemic. A report by the U.S. Surgeon General in 2023 declared loneliness a public health crisis, especially among seniors. It's not uncommon for someone over 65 to go days or even weeks without meaningful human contact. That absence isn't just emotional. It affects the brain, the immune system, and even life expectancy. This is why intimacy, however it looks, must be protected and pursued. You don't need to have intercourse to feel desired. You don't need to perform to feel close. You don't need to follow a script to experience connection. In fact, many older adults report that their most fulfilling moments of intimacy come outside the bedroom, in shared meals, laughter, long conversations, or simply lying together in silence. That's not the absence of intimacy. That's the essence of it. If you're in a relationship, this may mean learning to redefine what intimacy means for both of you. If you're single, it may mean being open to new types of relationships, romantic, platonic, or somewhere in between. Connection has many forms, and none of them are less valid because of your age. Emotional vulnerability, saying how you feel, what you miss, what you want, is a powerful gateway to intimacy. The courage to say, I miss being touched, or I want to feel close again, may be the most intimate act of all. Because in the end, intimacy is not about what your body can or can't do. It's about how open your heart still is. Now that we've explored the emotional and psychological power of human connection, it's time to dive into something just as essential: how to protect and nurture a safe, healthy, and fulfilling sex life, no matter your age. Let's talk about what no one else is talking about: how to enjoy a safe, satisfying, and healthy sex life after 60. Because here's the truth: just like your diet, your sleep routine, and your exercise plan evolve with age, so should your approach to intimacy. And no, this isn't about lowering expectations. It's about raising awareness, about what works now, not what worked 30 years ago. Let's start with safety. Yes, older adults need to practice safe sex. In fact, rates of sexually transmitted infections, STIs, among seniors have increased over the past decade. Why? Because many people assume protection isn't necessary once pregnancy is no longer a concern. But the risk of infections like chlamydia, gonorrhea, and even HIV remains. According to the CDC, people aged 55 and older make up a growing portion of new HIV diagnoses in the US. The solution? Honest conversations. Get tested regularly. Use condoms or dental dams if you're with a new partner. And don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a sign of self-respect, not distrust. Next up, comfort. Many older adults face physical limitations that can affect intimacy, like arthritis, hip pain, back problems, or reduced mobility. But that doesn't mean passion is off the table. It just means you need to get creative. Try different positions that reduce joint strain. Use pillows for support. Consider warm-up stretches or a gentle massage beforehand to relax the body. Talk openly with your partner about what feels good and what doesn't. Your comfort matters. For women, issues like vaginal dryness or discomfort during intercourse are common but very treatable. Vaginal moisturizers, lubricants, or prescription estrogen creams can make a world of difference. And men dealing with erectile changes have options too, from medication to vacuum devices to exploring new forms of stimulation that focus less on performance and more on connection. Remember, great sex isn't defined by penetration or stamina. It's defined by presence, pleasure, and mutual understanding. Want to take your intimacy to the next level? Practice sensate focus, a technique developed by sex therapists that involves slow, non-demanding touch to rebuild trust and excitement. No pressure, no end goal, just rediscovery. Also, be mindful of medications. Drugs for blood pressure, depression, or prostate issues can affect libido or performance. Don't stop taking them. Just talk to your doctor. There may be alternatives or adjustments to improve both your health and your sex life. Finally, never underestimate the power of communication. Asking your partner what they enjoy, what they miss, what they'd like to try. These conversations can be incredibly liberating. Vulnerability invites intimacy, and at this stage in life there's no time for guessing games. You've earned the right to prioritize pleasure. You've earned the right to ask for what you want. And you've earned the right to feel desired, fulfilled, and alive at any age. Now that we've laid the foundation for safer, healthier intimacy, let's shift to an even more overlooked topic. What doctors aren't telling you, and why it matters more than ever. When was the last time your doctor asked you about your sex life? If your answer is never, you're not alone. According to a study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society, only 17% of older adults say their doctors have ever brought up sexual health during an appointment. Why is that? In part, it's discomfort on both sides. Many doctors are trained to focus on disease prevention, not intimacy, and many patients feel embarrassed, assuming their concerns are too personal or not important enough. But here's the problem. Sexual health is health. It's tied to emotional well-being, relationship satisfaction, hormonal balance, and even heart function. Ignoring it doesn't make the issues go away, it just makes them harder to solve. Let's be clear, if you're dealing with concerns like erectile dysfunction, vaginal dryness, low libido, pain during intercourse, or sudden changes in desire, you have every right to speak up. In fact, you should. Many of these issues are not only common, they're treatable. But if your doctor doesn't know, they can't help. So how do you start the conversation? Be direct. At your next appointment, say, "I'd like to talk about my sexual health." You don't need to apologize or wait for permission. Write it down. If speaking face-to-face feels intimidating, write a note or bring a list of questions. Ask for a referral. If your doctor isn't comfortable discussing it, ask to see a urologist, gynecologist, or certified sex therapist who works with older adults. Advocate for yourself. You deserve a provider who listens without judgment and supports your full well-being, not just your lab results. Doctors aren't mind readers. But more importantly, they're not off the hook either. Medical schools are slowly updating their curriculum to include age-inclusive sexual education, but we're not there yet. That's why your voice matters. If you're a caregiver or family member, you can also help by normalizing these conversations. Ask your loved ones if they've had a chance to discuss all aspects of health, including intimacy, with their providers. Because at the end of the day, your sexual health is just as valid at 75 as it was at 25. And the more you advocate for it, the more the system will learn to treat it seriously. Now that we've tackled the medical side of the issue, let's bring this topic home. Because beyond the facts and the science, there are stories, real people, real connection, and proof that love and intimacy don't have an expiration date. You've heard the science, you've seen the statistics. But sometimes what moves us most isn't data, it's real stories. Because behind every headline about aging and sexuality, there are people quietly proving that love, desire, and deep connection can flourish long after 70. Take Eleanor and Frank, for example. They were both widowed in their late 60s, met at a community gardening club, and didn't expect much more than small talk and potlucks. But something clicked. Frank told HuffPost Senior Living that the first time he held Eleanor's hand, it felt like the first time all over again. Only this time, I knew exactly what I wanted, and exactly how to appreciate it. Their intimacy didn't look like movie scenes. It was slow, honest, filled with laughter and curiosity. We had more fun figuring each other out, Eleanor said, than we ever had trying to impress anyone, or meet Robert, age 79, who came out as gay just 5 years ago. After decades of living a life defined by fear and silence, he met Carlos, a retired teacher who helped him rediscover the power of touch and emotional safety. In an interview with The Advocate, Robert said, "For the first time, I felt free to be loved without pretending. I didn't know sex could be so healing. These aren't fairy tales. These are your neighbors, your classmates, your fellow churchgoers, and bingo night friends. They're proof that intimacy doesn't belong to youth. It belongs to anyone brave enough to show up, open up, and love with presence. Whether you've been married for 40 years or just downloaded your first dating app last week, your story is still being written, and it's never too late to add a chapter you never expected." So let's wrap things up with what you've learned and what comes next. If there's one thing we hope you take from this video, it's this: you're not alone. The silence you've felt around sex and aging, it's not yours to carry anymore. The shame you may have internalized, it was never yours to begin with. And the belief that intimacy ends after a certain age, it's not just outdated, it's flat out wrong. You've learned that your body may change, but your capacity for desire, for closeness, for connection, that never expires. You've seen the science, heard the stories, and felt the truth. You are still worthy of being touched. You are still worthy of being wanted. You are still worthy of pleasure, and whether you're in a relationship, looking for one, or simply wanting to reconnect with yourself, this chapter of your life holds more than you think. Now it's your turn to speak up. Leave a comment below. What part of this video resonated most with you? Give this video a like if it helped you feel seen, heard, or understood. And most importantly, subscribe to Second Sunrise for more honest, science-backed health content made especially for older adults. Because your story isn't over, it's just getting started.